I almost sold my XRP last week. Almost. Then I stumbled onto something that stopped me cold. It wasn't a price target or a Moonboy meme. It was a thread of clues that, when pulled together, felt way bigger than the usual hopium. A hint of a plan by big players. If even part of what I found is true, selling now would be like handing a winning lottery ticket back across the counter for a couple of bucks and a pat on the head. Curious? Stick with me, because this one unfolds like a movie and, at the very least, it will make you think twice before pressing sell. Picture this. I'm hanging out in our free educational Discord, link in the description, where the chat swings from sober strategy to spicy rumors in about 2 messages. Someone blurts out, "Never sell your XRP. A supply shock is coming." I nearly spit my coffee. It sounded like late-night infomercial energy. Act now or be poor forever. My skeptic alarm went off on cue. I've held XRP through the roller coaster, face-melting rallies, gut punch dips, and the never-ending noise machine. I've heard every bold claim under the sun. So I typed a snarky reply, hovered over enter, and then paused. What if this one deserved a second look? What if I was about to make the classic investor mistake, selling too early because I got tired right before something structural changed? That what if sent me down the rabbit hole. I wanted to test the XRP supply shock idea without falling in love with it. In plain English, a supply shock is when demand sprints ahead of available supply so fast that price gaps up because there just isn't enough inventory at current levels. Think musical chairs. 100 players, 80 chairs, 20 people get left standing. Now imagine someone quietly removes another 40 chairs before the next round. Same 100 players, only 40 chairs. Chaos. People will pay a lot for the right to sit. Translate that to markets. If more participants want XRP than there are willing sellers, price doesn't politely walk higher, it can lurch. The claim I kept hearing was that the chairs are being removed in the background by larger players accumulating and by coins migrating off exchanges into deeper cold storage or long-term custody where they're less likely to hit the sell side of the order book. So where did the rumor start? The loudest voice on the podcast circuit was a guy named Versan Al-Jahar from Black Swan Capitalist. He flat out says a supply shock is inevitable and that never sell is the right stance. Bold. He paints a picture. Big shops, think household Wall Street names, quietly hoover up supply while retail gets shook out by every negative headline and mini downtrend. No leaked documents, no smoking gun, he's open about that. It's a theory based on pattern recognition and incentives. He basically says, if you wait for perfect proof, you'll be late. Smart money acts on converging signals. Like it or not, there's truth in the timing point. By the time a headline hits legacy media, professional capital is often already positioned. On the same show, the co-host tossed in a detail that made my ears perk up. The head of digital asset strategy at a major asset manager previously worked in the crypto industry, including roles adjacent to projects like Ripple. People move jobs all the time, so one resume line doesn't prove a grand plan, but it does raise the eyebrow test. Talent migrates where opportunity is. If big asset managers see the rails of value moving on-chain, they will seed teams with people who speak that language. If they intend to dominate the next settlement layer, you'd expect them to quietly build capability now legal, technical, liquidity, counterparty relationships before they blast press releases. Now, the bolder twist in the theory is price suppression. The idea goes like this. Push public attention toward the safer, more approved front doors, Bitcoin and Ethereum, so compliance departments feel comfortable greenlighting crypto in general. Meanwhile, let XRP sit in the shadows, unloved in the headlines, so it can be accumulated in size without a bidding war. That sounds like a thriller script, I know. But strip away the drama and ask a boring question. If you did want to build a giant position quietly, what would you do? You'd probably avoid pumping the asset you're buying. You'd route orders across venues, graze liquidity, and keep attention elsewhere. You'd want sellers to keep selling to you at reasonable prices. Again, none of this proves the conspiracy. This is incentive analysis, not revelation, but it's also not crazy from a market structure standpoint. Before I go further, reality check. Markets are full of stories that sound clever and turn out to be wrong. So I looked for things that are actually observable. 1. the share of coins sitting on exchanges relative to total supply. In many assets, that exchange float trends down over time as coins move to custody or long-term holdings, reducing readily available inventory. 2. The behavior of order books around key levels. If sell walls reload over and over after being eaten, someone is distributing. If buy walls persistently refuel into weakness, someone is accumulating. 3. Large transfers to known custodians or institutional wallets. None of these prove BlackRock plans X on day Y. They simply indicate whether the market's available float is shrinking or deepening. If the float shrinks while interest grows, you get the conditions for violent upside moves, the very thing supply shock describes. Let's talk manipulation, because the co-host raised it and history backs at least the possibility in other markets. Big banks have paid eye-watering fines for spoofing and other manipulative practices in metals and rates markets. To them, fines can be a line item, harsh but manageable. Does that mean they're manipulating XRP right now? No conclusion. It means those institutions play hardball where the rules are fuzzy, and crypto remains a young, fragmented market with varying oversight. If an institution wanted price lower to accumulate, there are legal ways to lean on sentiment, emphasize risks in research notes, withhold product listings while evaluating, or simply choose not to talk about an asset publicly until the stack is built. Silence can shape perception as effectively as speech. That ties into a detail the podcast highlighted. A bank report about allowing crypto as collateral named Bitcoin and Ethereum explicitly, then tossed in other digital assets as a catch-all. No XRP mentioned. Is that a snub or a tell? The optimistic read, if you're actively building with an asset you consider strategic, you might not pre-announce it in a generic document. You keep counsel tight until infrastructure is complete. The skeptical read, they genuinely don't care about XRP and it didn't make the cut. Both readings are plausible. The only way to distinguish is to watch what gets built. Custody integrations, settlement pilots, credit policies, and whether dollar rails on-chain expand in ways that interoperate with the XRP ledger. Zooming out, there are real-world breadcrumbs beyond US headlines. Large Asian financial groups have long-standing relationships with Ripple and the XRPL ecosystem. Some have discussed or piloted stablecoins and cross-border products using Ripple's tech stack. Stablecoins are relevant here because they supercharge on-chain settlement volume and can deepen liquidity pools. More volume and tighter spreads make any bridge asset more useful. If a major bank rolls out a compliant stablecoin on a network that interops with XRP, that's not proof of an XRP by program, but it is infrastructure that could increase the odds of XRP being used as a bridge in certain corridors. Infrastructure precedes adoption. Adoption precedes valuation. And here's a point that keeps me grounded when the narrative gets loud: fundamentals. Whatever you think of price targets, XRP's core pitch hasn't changed: fast settlement, low fees, designed to be a bridge between currencies and payment systems. The ledger continues to add features that support liquidity, and enterprise-grade payments products continue to aim at the pain points of cross-border finance. Fundamentals don't guarantee outcomes, but they matter more than Twitter sentiment cycles. If you know what you hold and why, you can weigh rumors without being whipsawed by every headline. Let me drop the big disclaimer so nobody confuses a story with advice. I'm not your financial advisor. This isn't financial advice, and crypto is volatile. You can lose money, sometimes quickly. Do your own research, sanity check everything, and consult a licensed professional before risking capital. My goal here is to share the path my thinking took, clues, counter-clues, and how I tried to pressure test them so you can run your own process with fewer blind spots. Back to the trail. The phrase that won't leave my head is silence around XRP speaks volumes. A branch manager hint, a corporate report that names 2 assets and generalizes the rest, a talent move from a crypto company into a top asset manager's blockchain team, recurring rumors of large custody integrations, and steady, almost boring progress on enterprise rails. None of those are fireworks, but together they look like scaffolding. If they're just coincidences, Fine, I'm okay being cautious and wrong. But if there's scaffolding for a larger structure, you won't see the full outline until it's already functional. By then, liquidity conditions can change fast. Fewer coins on exchange, more in custody or long-term vaults, fewer weak hands, and a price-insensitive bid emerging from real settlement flow. So, what would a supply shock look like in practice? Not a single candle to infinity. More like this: exchange reserves trend down, borrow rates for the asset on margin desks nudge up, spreads tighten during Asia or US hours depending on where demand is concentrated. On dips, buy walls refill faster than sell walls. Large prints settle off exchange through OTC channels and retail notices after the fact. If headlines suddenly shift from "Why XRP lags" to "Institution X integrates on-chain cross-border settlement," you won't have hours to get positioned. Supply shocks are violent precisely because the tradable float is thin relative to the new demand. Each extra dollar chases fewer available coins. What do you do with that possibility? You build a plan that doesn't require you to be a hero. Keep a core position you won't touch on noise. If you like to trade around a core, define a small, tactical slice with rules before emotion hits. Ladder buys on red days. Ladder trims into obvious euphoria. Never all in, never all out. Set alerts at levels you care about rather than babysitting charts. And harden your security now, not during a frenzy. Hardware wallet, fresh seed, no approvals in sketchy dApps, and a calm rule that you never sign transactions you don't understand. If the shock never comes, you stayed disciplined. If it does, you're not scrambling. I also want to acknowledge the emotional side. I've been tempted to exit more times than I can count. The waiting wears on you. Trolls call XRP dead every other week, then a legal win drops and the chorus flips. It's exhausting. But the more I mapped incentives, the more I kept returning to a simple question. If giant institutions believed an internet-native settlement layer would replace legacy pipes, would they telegraph their exact playbook to you? Or would they say as little as possible while building the stack, obtaining licenses, and getting counterparties lined up? If they wanted size without attention, would they celebrate every uptick? Or quietly keep attention elsewhere until rails were ready? Maybe all of this is coincidence. Maybe my puzzle pieces don't actually belong to the same picture. I'm okay with that. Worst case, I held an asset with real utility longer than I needed to. Best case, the scaffolding I think I see becomes a bridge everyone uses, and early holders will be very glad they didn't let frustration sell their ticket cheaply. I can live with being patient and wrong far more easily than I can live with selling 1 inch before proof arrived. So here's where I landed. I'm not selling my XRP because the cost of being early wrong feels lower than the cost of being late wrong. If a genuine demand wave hits a thinner float, the repricing won't be gentle. And if we eventually learn that the silence wasn't indifference, but preparation, a lot of people will wake up trying to buy back what they sold at prices that make their stomachs turn. That's what a supply crunch looks like. Liquidity dries up because coins are locked in institutional vaults or strong hands, and price adjusts to coax sellers out, often brutally. What do you think? Am I connecting dots that don't belong together, or does this resonate with how big money actually behaves? Healthy skepticism is welcome. Honestly, it's essential. Drop your take in the comments, or better yet, join the Discord and walk me through your argument. Bring counter-evidence. Bring more breadcrumbs. Investing is a puzzle, and smart people can read the same clues differently. My gut says the XRP story isn't done. In fact, the quiet might be the tell that it's just getting started behind the scenes. If a wave is forming, I'm making sure my board is waxed and ready. If there's no wave, I still own something with real utility and a plan I can live with. If you got value from this deep dive, tap like, hit subscribe, and stick around. More research-first stories are coming, no hype, just signals. I'll see you in the next one.